Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Zesty's Best Bets. This is episode 4, NFL Week 4, College Football Week 5. We have been progressing nicely as a show last weekend, fairly profitable. We'll go ahead and give you those stats at the end as we kick off into the next week. Right now, we are coming to you live on Thursday after the Giants covered the 5.5 points. And both teams decided that they were going to have their heads up each other's asses and miss the total by a fairly significant margin. So apparently field goals are a lot more fun than everybody thinks. And that's what they decided to do tonight in New Jersey. So before we kick it off, Zest, any brief words on the Thursday night game?
Yeah, a couple things we learned. When NFC East teams go to battle, one team scores touchdowns and the other just kicks field goal. We're very close to going 2-0 once a team kicking field goals. We had the Commanders week 2. Infus won without a touchdown against 3 touchdowns. Giants had an opportunity; they couldn't get a stop. But there's so many warts on this Dallas team that I sure hope they get a couple ugly victories because they have not done anything to even remotely make me think they're even an 8-win team. They're going to be talked about weekly. It's always going to be public. Dallas always gets the public money just because everybody talks, but they are not. There is a lot of things to dislike about them. They everybody talks about the pass rush. They had a lead. They couldn't even pressure Daniel Jones and the Giants, which is the average at best offensive line. They did do better against the run, but the Giants also threw the ball 30 times and just controlled the clock. So they've got so many warts front to bottom. It looked like Parson potentially, which it doesn't really matter. He doesn't really help against the run either. Uh, but he left on the cart. Dallas will be fun to fade if they continue to lose or continue to win because they are not a cover team. That's for damn sure. They tried the cover play, and their best player missed the cover play. So bless his heart, he's a man of the chat here. But yeah, ugly game. I wouldn't judge either team. I was more impressed with the Giants being able to have a functional offense, even though it left in or ended in 5 field goals, than anything Dallas did.
All of that makes sense, and it was just sad to watch, really. But we'll move on to week 4. Trying to get it on with New Orleans to lead it off. You are on the total here, which sits at 42. New Orleans is traveling to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia to face the Falcons. And you are not able to find 7 touchdowns in this game. Why not?
Divisional games are always fun. They always, I don't want to put my foot in my mouth, but they always seem to be possession based, lower scoring. Field position tends to play a part. But also, New Orleans, if you just eliminate, let's say, the Panthers, when it was week 1, a little weird, even then, we just saw Dallas's defense wasn't great, but there was also a couple explosive plays. All the media hype was what they scored on 8 straight possessions or something like that. Everything that New Orleans has done offensively is just not sustainable. We know who Derek Carr is. It's still just that system, but also those Dirty Birds, they play pretty decent defense. The ultimate cap of this is, which Kirk Cousins is it? I know he played well against Kansas City, but he also, he's played two tough defenses in theory with Pittsburgh and Kansas City. But what's their identity? I know they ran well, but the bigger thing, if you look at the second half of the Kansas City game, they lost a center. They could barely snap the ball, and I believe it was either the guard or tackle, but they lost two of the five. The cohesion with an offensive line plays a part. I know they got all week to get into it, but even though New Orleans got outgained by 200 yards to Atlanta, they didn't allow scores other than, the missed assignment with the huge pass to Goddard to ultimately cost them the game. They're still playing solid defense. So I think 42, I would obviously love it closer to the key number of 43, 44, but this has field goals all day, field possession, last possession kind of game. And then even if it does end up in a blowout, both of the teams' defense, whoever's on the blowout side, typically are aggressive, and I don't necessarily see them backing off, allowing garbage backdoor covers like we saw in San Francisco last week, because that was kind of disgusting. But uh, I don't see it there. I see more field goals and touchdowns. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think that my biggest fear in this game is the performance of Kirk Cousins and David Carr. Uh, those two guys, you know, it's difficult to tell when they're going to convert in the red zone, and that would give me some pause if I was looking to bet the over. So don't like doing that. Kirk's a little old. We'll see how he continues to progress through the season with that recovery from the Achilles. And Carr finally came back to earth last week, so maybe that's more indicative of how he's going to be moving forward, matching up with the rest of his prior career rather than those two games where he really came out burning. So we shall see. And in keeping with our low scoring theme, we're going to travel to Chicago, where the Bears and Rams will match up in Soldier Field. Total is at 41, and you don't think they're going to get there. Caleb Williams slander yet again.
Yeah, keep rolling with fading a very high profile rookie that just hasn't quite put it together. I know his stats last week were uh, good if you're just looking at stats, but he's still struggled quite a bit. This game, to me, the Rams just came off a 14-point victory or deficit to a victory. They're decimated. They just played a rival. I'm not quite sure what the trends continue to say, but usually teams after they play the Niners tend to struggle. Chicago plays good defense. I trust McVay to be able to scheme stuff, but I think there's enough. I mean, outside of what was it, 6 minutes ago or something, the game was damn near dead in the night. There was some letdowns. I just don't see being able to repeat that multiple weeks, and I haven't seen anything from Chicago. Uh, Regardless of the injury, I know Allen, I believe, is going to be a go. Dunze is questionable, but he was questionable last week. He played. I expect him to play too. Really has nothing to do with the cap. This is purely I'm fading Caleb. I don't think he's going to put enough up, and I don't think the Rams are going to be able to come back off a divisional victory, a high. This is kind of a low spot that I think very good opportunity. It's going to be an ugly game.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like the under here. I actually found the Rams early on in the week to be an appetizing selection in Super Contest as well at +3. I think ugly game is likely here, and I think it comes down to probably the last possession. And if the Rams have the ball, I really like Stafford's chance to give him the end zone. He's playing, I mean, by all accounts, unbelievably well relative to what you had to expect from him after he looked the way he did last year with his shoulder looking like it was kind of starting to deteriorate. And now he's back out there like he's ready to run out for UVA again, just fucking zipping the ball all around, making guys that were on the practice squad look good last week. So we'll see. Obviously, nobody's as good as they are when they're at their high. Nobody's as bad as they are when they're at their low. But to me, plus the Rams go in there on the road. Chicago's just been wildly inconsistent. And I don't think that the injuries really make a difference on the line. But to the extent that Allen is banged up, to me, that's the one that might matter more just because he's old. So if he's banged up, maybe he's not able to get loose as much. And then that really whittles down the Bears' options. And the Bears haven't been able to run the ball for shit all year. So if they can't run the ball, they're leaving too much in Caleb Williams' hands. And I don't see that working out well just yet for our friends in Chicago. So
Yeah, you nailed it on the head on several things. Safford's shoulder had too many touchdowns to Megatron, now it's not. And Cooper Cup, I guess, bionic arm.
I think you're on mute.
All right, let's try that again. I said you hit it on the head, 100%. Stafford, his bionic arm was a little weak from throwing all them touchdowns to Megatron and Cup over the last years. It looks a little better. But the Bears' offensive line is just shit. Caleb Williams makes it worse with his tendencies. But as far as moving the line of scrimmage, they don't get any rush game, even though the Rams are. This is kind of a weakness of the Rams. They just don't get enough movement to make the running game viable. I do believe, because I went back and forth on this, the same as you said. I early leaned the Rams. I like Chicago under 3, but ultimately I picked the total just because I believe the same game script can be the same, but the sides can have different outcomes. But I think the total ultimately has the same outcome. So that's my decision on that.
That makes sense because 17-13 one way fucks me, and 17-13 both ways makes you look good. So I definitely like that total as well. So we shall venture on down the middle of the country to Houston in NRG Stadium, where we're just putting a little too much faith in an 0-3 Jaguars team. I don't know. Maybe. It is a 6.5, maybe 6, depending on where you can get it line. But do we really think they're good enough?
Yeah, this is pretty ugly. I did pretty well last week on ugly games. There is no special formula or any hidden tricks here that I can say. This is you were on national television, typically a standalone game. Luckily, we were able to flip and watch them Commanders show you how to play some ball. But
luckily, it wasn't a standalone game.
As you mentioned, you're never as good as you look, and you're never as bad as you look. I mean, we saw the Panthers last week come back and look good. Obviously, they did make a change at quarterback, but two things. This could be a double bet. You either back Jacksonville or you add a future bet that Doug Peterson is the first head coach to get fired because it is plummeting. He is now the favorite at plus 130. I believe he was 6 or 8 to 1 after last week. They just had a terrible game script against Buffalo. They played a lot of man. They were decimated. Josh Allen dominates in man. They look lifeless. This is a divisional game. I hate betting on games I'm going to learn a lot from, and I hope I'm right. But it's two things. Either Jacksonville's quit completely, or this is a game that they're going to come and get up for because it's a divisional game, and I think they play within the numbers. Uh, Dogs of 6 have done very well throughout the year. The Giants again today, I think we're I don't know, 11-2 or something of that nature at 6 point. Uh, Dogs doing well. Eventually, the trend's going to flip. They're going to adjust, but at this moment, it seems viable. And to that, there's really nothing to take away from Houston because they did just kind of get their ass waxed too, but it was different. They're both really good teams, but now you're facing divisional opponents. I just think 6 is too much. Backdoor cover. Even though Jacksonville, I think they're 1-9 against the spread and outright the last 9 games. So it's not a lovely bet here, but the number is trending in our direction. I believe it is 6 now. I would. It might get to 5, but that's a whole bunch of adjustments. This might be an overreaction, but we're going to learn a whole hell of a lot of Jacksonville if they come and compete for Peterson, because otherwise there's going to be some changes. Mac Jones might come in.
That's interesting. Yeah, I wonder if you could find a book that would take a parlay on Houston money line and Peterson being the first coach fired. That'd be an interesting bet if you could get it, if you could find it. Jacksonville line at 6.5, man. I continue to have questions about their offense, and I really don't want to have questions because I have Sunshine on my fantasy team, but I don't know why they're not better. And maybe it is that Doug Peterson's just not maximizing Trevor Lawrence's talents. Maybe Lawrence had just too much hype coming out of college, and everybody thought he was going to be, the next Andrew Luck. And that's a lot to put on somebody's shoulders, and maybe he's just not that guy. So don't hate the pick. Going to be tough for me to stomach this one and follow, only because it is hard to break away from that recency bias of watching Jacksonville get their asses handed to them in multiple facets of the game by Buffalo. But Texans also clearly have some weaknesses. Flores was able to dial some things up and really shut that offense down. Who knows if that was more a sign of a weak running game, making them one-dimensional, which gives Flores an extra advantage. Maybe Mixon will be back and a little bit more healthy this week, and that could help him out here. But, in the end of the day, I think that the Jags do try and pull this one out, and I think they keep it close. Division games, Jacksonville historically has done well against Houston. So we shall roll on to
Just
lovely.
Just to finish up on that, or circle
Absolutely.
back, I guess. So everybody's super high on Houston, myself included. I do think they're a well team, but early, depending on the power rankings you care about, they treat Houston as a equal team, right? So we're equal, even, give or take. I don't necessarily agree with that. But Jacksonville's -3. So now we put it together. That's where you get your 6 points. That's where the 6.5 becomes into value because, in theory, old school, not so much anymore. Home field was 3. So now we're looking at maybe 5. So now you get a potential plus 1.5 after you just got your shit kicked in. Very uncompetitive. I know Jacksonville's coming out, or Houston's coming off the same thing. They weren't on national TV, and it's very possible. There's a couple things. Jacksonville's defensive scheme was just dog shit. I think that's a lot of it. And I do think eventually Doug Peterson is going to have much more of a input on the offense. And when he was doing that, I don't know why he ever gave it up, but he's probably going to have a higher influence on the play script. And Trevor Lawrence seemed to thrive under him for a while. We'll see. Again, I hate betting games I learn from because I feel really stupid. I actually backed Jacksonville last week. I told a colleague of ours, do not bet -4.5. It's a terrible number. And I was eating crow 17 minutes into the game and had to listen to it for still have to fucking listen to it. But yeah, bet it, close your eyes, and just tune in when it's done.
Yeah, some of this stuff you just gotta hold your breath when it's going down. Nothing you can do about it. Speaking of games that shouldn't have to hold your breath during, because they should be kind of awesome. The Commanders and the Cardinals. Commanders have been very fun this year. I have to say that as a Cowboys fan. They're a hell of a lot more fun to watch than fucking Dallas. Now, granted, that's because Dallas gives me a fucking heart to burn every time I watch them through frustration. But Washington's fun. The Cardinals are fun. And you want to destroy the fun. Taking the under at 50.5, telling me that this game's just not going to be as fun as I thought it would be.
Oh, I think this game's gonna be fun. I should have pulled up the stats. I know the Commanders are very bottom tier defensively. That's with playing the Giants, so that's even worse. The NFL average, uh, so up until this year, I think they average about 43 points is about what an average is, give or take. This year, it's 41 and going down. We saw the Lions and the Cardinals week, what was that, 3 or 2 or whatever it was. Thought the same thing. Indoors, track meet. It's going to be an exciting game. 50's a lot of points at this point in time. I've watched a lot of Commanders and actually a lot of Cardinals games too. It wouldn't shock me, but it's definitely overinflated, especially after the Monday night game that what did they put up 70 something points. The Commanders haven't punted in 2 games. This is all fluff. This is going to raise it up. I mean, I think this game is going to be entertaining. I went back and forth because I actually cannot stomach laying the 3.5, but I would not be shocked if the Cardinals actually beat the piss out of the Commanders. And that's not a shot at the Commanders. It's just their offense is so much more elite than the Commanders' defense. And then if we get off script a little bit, Daniels, although he's performed well, now this is another game you'll learn from. Okay, are the Giants' defense just not as bad? But the Giants' defense hasn't really played anything either, and they struggled in the red zone. They didn't. And then also we'll learn Cincinnati, is that defense just that shit, or they just had a bad game plan? This is just an opportunity to buy low on two teams that everybody's going to think they're going to score every possession, and that's just not the case in the NFL. I mean, there's one holding penalty, one the penalty or anything can stymie a drive, especially when they're multiple plays now. There doesn't seem to be a whole hell of a lot of huge plays early that time of possession's key in unders, you know, sucks to root for, but time of possession and punts and field goals, you're like, yeah, just got to learn to adjust what you're rooting for.
Yeah, I suppose we're gonna go into this one, and when it's a 8 play, 6 minute drive and it leads to a punt from midfield, we're like, fucking A, that's execution. Like we're some goddamn Iowa fans or something. Uh that'll be super fucking fun for absolutely no one. So uh but you're right, it is getting inflated. Opened at 49 and a half. It's up to 50 and a half, 51 in some places. And as much as I would absolutely love for that to be the fucking case, because that would be awesome to watch Jaden Daniels and Kyler throw it around to hopefully Marvin Harrison Jr. a lot. That is really just built on my, irrational belief that Cliff Kingsbury is out for a little bit of revenge game, and that Kyler Murray is still fucking insanely pissed at him for telling people that he doesn't watch film and he just plays video games. So I don't know what's going to come of this, but I guess we will hope for less than 50 points to be what comes of this. I also thought maybe grabbing the Commanders at plus 3.5, just because I do think that they can hang with them potentially, because I don't see the Cardinals being that solid on defense, although they're not bad. So we shall see.
Yeah, there's a couple ways to go about it. I think my personal opinion is the game script is going to get to the point that the Cardinals actually run the ball. Gannon is a defensive guy. They're going to run the ball. Connor has had success, but he does know the weakness. Or the entire weakness is the Commanders' defense, but the secondary is a weakness. They're going to take shots, but they can also control the game, help out his defense. That's not the Buffalo game is looking better. The last 2 weeks is trending worse. So I'm confused on what their actual defense is, but I do think they play enough defense or even control the ball. You know, both sides can kind of do the same thing. They're both defensive head coaches. The game script could get out of hand real quick. I just don't see score for score. I think it's going to be uh, 7-3 first quarter. Okay, now we're really playing position here. Now let's set it up. This is why I lean the total versus the side. Kind of the same thing with the Chicago game. In good faith, I really believe the Cardinals are the better team. If it gets even at 3, it's not really profitable to bet anything under. I might play the in play, but I just think both of these teams are going to kind of keep the ball away from themselves. Be good enough to sustain drives, but it is a timed game, and at that point, your possessions mean more later. But who knows? It could be fucking 22-24 at halftime, and we're looking dumb as shit. But
You never know. It has happened before, but that's the random nature of the NFL and the fuckery that is afoot every weekend if you gamble enough. So can't get too mad at it. We just try to do our best around here. And Speaking of trying to do your best, but looking a little less than everybody thought you would, Kansas City going into San Diego, playing against quite possibly the biggest football maniac on earth, maybe the biggest one that's ever been on earth in Jim Harbaugh. He's a crazy fucker, but we love him. And Chargers have a hurt ankle, Justin Herbert at quarterback, trying to play. The line here is moved up all the way to Kansas City at -7. So to me, that feels like they do not expect Herbert to play, or if he does, it's not going to be very well. And you have the total here, which is at 40. So I like this. So tell me why. Yep, I see the trepidation there. When I say I like it, that's usually not a good sign.
Yeah, I'm hoping Herbert plays because I want to catch 41. I highly doubt it gets up there. It was at 39.5 at kick for today's game. This is a respect game. Both of these head coaches respect each other. They're divisional. It means something. Harbaugh's old school. He's not going to get crazy. But Reed also, in theory, I mean, obviously, I don't know either one of them, but he respects a Harbaugh team because he's seen them in the league before. It's not like it's just some guy we picked up off the street. You have no idea. I think they're going to play close to the script and contain Mahomes, but also Kansas City really hasn't done anything to. We still have that one colleague that picks every Kansas City Chief up, thinking that they're lighting up the scoreboard, but they're more of a efficient offense, but not a scoring offense. I I could see this very similar to the Pittsburgh game, 20-10, even 24-10. Backup quarterback, whatever. I just think it's going to be possession based. I I'm a sicko, I guess. I love betting unders, betting for punts or long drives that end in a missed field goal, but not too far that changes field position. But this is going to be a chess match. This is a divisional game. They're kind of playing it out. Uh, the line has gone from 8.5 to 7 because Herbert came out and said, "Hey, I'm going to play," even though if he is hobbled or injured, they're still going to try to run the ball. Kansas City does a good job against the run, but the Chargers, they're battled and Bosa's out. There's there's things, but Kansas City's not going to try to run up the score. If it gets out of script, they're up 17 points. They're going to ball control. Possessions are going to be less available for both sides. And then obviously, if the other side doesn't have the quarterback, even if they had Herbert, it's going to be all right. Let's play to fight another day. The Chargers are going into a bye. So if it does get out of script, it's very possible they just sit Herbert. If he does go, it doesn't matter. I'm hoping he starts so the line goes higher so I can bet a better number for the under. But that's the way I look at it. I wouldn't take the side just for what I said. I mean, very possible to get out of script or uh, fluky touchdown or just something that the Chargers can't overcome. So the 8.5, I do think they're a decent team. And 8.5 is tantalizing, but that's why teasers exists too. Is they want you to take that because 2.5, 3, you know, sometimes those teams get blown out by 14 or whatever, and I can see that game landing this way, but being a very close 14-point blowout because Kansas City doesn't blow teams out anymore. That's not their DNA at the moment. So
No, it's exactly right. That's why I like this pick. I see Los Angeles as a team that has really embraced Harbaugh's lunatic fucking approach to football, which is good because it's an approach to football that wins fucking games. They've only given up 33 fucking points through 3 games on the year. They play good defense. Granted, Derwin James won't be out there for them, but and Bosa, like you said, also going to have a problem playing this week. So perhaps they won't be as good. You might think, oh, they're playing the Chiefs and they got problems on defense. That's not going to be good. High scoring. We're going to have a problem. But as you said, the Chiefs are just not an offensive juggernaut at this point. I don't know if it is age related or what. Travis Kelce, though, not putting up the offensive numbers of a top tier tight end that we used to see from a fantasy football perspective. And that I think leads to less explosive plays for them overall. So if he's not able to unlock things over the middle, and Kansas City really does have to focus on turning around, handing the ball to Carson Steele, dinking and dunking with Rashee Rice, not getting a whole lot of plays, and Harbaugh conversely is able to contain the explosive plays that they try and get from a dude like Xavier Worthy, then I'm with you. I think this ends up 20-10, 13-10, 13-17. All those possibilities seem well within reach here because Harbaugh is just going to continually punch Kansas City in the mouth throughout the game. That's just how he wants to play. And I think Reed will come back with, we will do the same thing to you, and we will trust that our guy in the end will get us over the hump. And that's all we're going to need here. You know, like they don't, Reed doesn't care what the fucking line is. If they win 17-13, they covered the spread as far as he's fucking concerned. So I like the 7.5 here. I liked it more when it was at 8 because I thought, hey, grab it if Herbert plays better. If not, I think the game plan actually with Herbert hurt and stick in the game is the same anyway because you're still not going to be slinging the ball that much. So we'll see what happens there. Like the under, and you know, this will be an entertaining football game as well. This is one of those where different kind of entertainment, like we talked about before. You're rooting for slightly different things, but it'll be some good football to watch.
like I said, even if Heineke goes, and I do believe Herbert's going to go. Heineke is like a really, really less talented Brett Favre. He's going to sling it. If his guys make a play, they're going to make it. But Harbaugh's not going to allow that to happen. This game's it's not a Harbaugh thing. It's just the two of them. This is day one of a tango that they're going to do for years until Reed retires because Harbaugh's probably never going to get fired. I mean, Chargers are a different organization, but this is data point one of what we can do. And let's see what I want to do if it's successful. Same as Kansas City. They want to do the same thing. They don't want to, they have the best quarterback, but the talent around them, you know, and if Bosa goes, which I expect, I don't know, the two tackles are the largest liability of the Chiefs, so that goes into their game script that they have to go quick, all this. The Kansas or Kelsey, all that, that's just fluff. He's in love. He's got $100 million podcast. Football's a hobby for him at the moment until it's the playoffs. Like, it's just a good in my opinion, I do like 39.5 too. I would still bet that, but once Herbert's announced he's a go, it's going to go up, and then in theory, I'm hoping, but regardless, it's under no play at all. Even though 8.5 is a great number, but as we talked about, it could get weird and be 24-13. You're on the wrong side, even though you were just there.
Yep, that's exactly what we're looking at here in San Diego. So that should be fun. And now we're going to do a brief little discussion about something that we had talked about in the past, which is a teaser bet. And the first teaser combo that we are looking at right now is Tampa Bay, who is currently +2 TMZFPN. And the other combo here is Indianapolis, the Colts, who are +1.5. So 6-point teaser gets them to 8 and 7.5 respectively. What's the thinking here with this tease? We just think that these are close games. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm not a huge teaser fan. I've got several of them. So if you find a book, you're allowed to tease them or round robin. You can pick 3, 4, 5, 6, or whatever, but you bet each leg. The idea of teasing them, and I'm looking at it at the moment because it's been a long time since I've done a teaser. Way back when you'd have 2 legs. It was -110. I'm sure the VIG has gone up. It's closer to probably -115, 120 or whatever. But essentially, you make 2 bets at a 6-point teaser. There's a 3-point teaser, 6-point. Who knows what the hell they're doing anymore? I mean, they could go all through the numerical numbers. Obviously, you want to go through the key numbers, but the idea here for this bet specifically, get Tampa Bay at a key number of 7.5, same as the Colts at 7.5, to where a touchdown doesn't fuck you. But with the 2-point, the field goal, it's adjusted, but it's still an old key number to benefit yourself. The 7.5 still solid due to the missed field goals and whatever. And 6 is slowly adjusting to a key number because of that missing of a extra point or stuff of that nature. Um, Again, I'm not a huge fan of teasers, mostly because you feel really good. Oh yeah, you're giving me 6 extra points. Yeah, I can't lose that, and they get fucking the doors blown off. So you don't want to tease a team that's getting 3 points because that just loses your value because you go 3-9 and it's still a 2-possession game. 9 to 7.5 is dead zone in theory until it lands on the number and you hate yourself. But some of the other numbers I would consider flirting with. Honestly, I'll be honest, I probably won't do a teaser, but you can do a round robin to where you can get up to so many results depending on the teaser you make. So if you make a 3-team round robin with all these teams, you have so many outcomes, and then you just have to do the math of the factor and all that stuff. But the one I would consider is Tampa Bay and Indy, just like we talked about, both of them getting 7.5. That would be the one. Other teams that are worth flirting with, is Houston, drop them down to a pick 'em against Jacksonville, so they just have to win. You get the Saints up to 8.5. Also, we're getting past that number, and you're actually getting past weird stuff as a 2-point conversion or something weird or a safety. You're getting to that 9 number. Cleveland, puke. I can't trust Cleveland, but luckily the Raiders are equally shit. So if you're getting 8 points against the Raiders, uh, still puke, but you feel a little better. Buffalo up to 8.5 against the Ravens, even though they cover the number at home. Lamar Jackson's pretty poor against the number at home, which is weird. The Ravens have a great home field advantage. He's just not good against the number. So they win, they just don't cover the number. So you bump it up past a touchdown at 8.5 there. And then wouldn't be a podcast if we didn't talk about Tennessee and how much I fucking love talking about them or betting them. But you give me 7 points against a backup quarterback, potentially one that's only been there for a week. Their defense is not the problem. Will Levis and the special teams score more for the opposing teams, so obviously that's not sustainable. Defense seems to be sustainable, so at least you get value there. And that's, pick and choose from there. You want to get crazy with round robins, that's fine. Just don't put too much of your units into it. Either do 2-team or do half of what you would do for a full game if you round robin it into 3 or 4 of these good numbers, and hopefully it's good. Yeah.
So I just want to get one thing straight on this round robin strategy. Essentially, what it would be is if I'm looking at, you know, 3 teams that I think are going to cover, I bet those 3 teams, and then I bet the combination of one in one, one in the other in the other, and then I'll do the combination of all 3. So that way I'm covered more and more as we go up. So if I hit all 3, I hit everything. If I hit 2 of the 3, I've hopefully hit the 2 straight bets as well as at least 2 or 1 of the parlays or teasers. And then if I hit 1 out of the 3, that's a problem because then I'm only getting the 1 straight bet and I'm missing the other. I'm missing the other leg. So you're hoping to get at least 2 out of the 3 here. But that's the basic structure we're talking about, right?
100%. And it does change because you can go. Again, I haven't bet a teaser forever, but I think you can go up at least to 6. But then you have to multiply that 6 by the 3 by divided the 2, and you have to pay for it. It's essentially you're paying each one of those tickets. It just doesn't kill the bet if you're able to manipulate it into a profitable equation of, these are the 3 I really like. I'll put them here, and you just add the combinations of all those. The odds aren't great. They're not terrible if you do it correctly. But yeah, you get super crazy and go 8-0 with all these combinations. You should just put them on, you know, a single bet. You should never go 8-team parlay, but there's a way to profit with teasers, just like there's a way to profit with player props. There's several ways to bet games differently. Just find the bet you want. Me personally, I don't really like going it's been a long time since I've been a teaser. I never liked going more than 2 or 3. I think way back when a 3-teamer was maybe 1.5. It's probably 130 now, give or take. So you can get value at getting past the key number on select games, but at any point in time, it can rat fuck you real quick. Just like the survivor picks. I don't know if the chat has paid attention. There was 15,000 applicants. After 3 weeks, we're down to under 500 because you're just picking winners at that point. And the NFL does some crazy things. Cincinnati is one of them. They have lost to 2 very games that they were very highly favored and should have won. So just bet accordingly. And one of the games we didn't touch, I don't know if you're going to circle on it, is Green Bay minus 2.5. And that's the second actual side I have this week. Most of this is the look ahead line. I'm betting on Love to be available, but I don't think LaFleur cares who his quarterback is. He's, bless his heart, he's rat fucked me. I've tried to fade his quarterback, but he's just a hell of a coach. I think he's 8-1 against the spread. Um, he just, in certain situations, he just does a really good job of coaching, getting them schemed up. If Love's going to play, he's going to be ready to rock. The narrative could be, oh, LaFleur, or not LaFleur, but Flores, he presses you, you're going to learn real quick. And that's a valid point. I mean, if you want, you could play this game there, but I think it's now up to 3. I don't know if I would touch 3 because I do like the Vikings quite a bit, but Green Bay's legit. I talk shit about their defense in week 2, and they've come to play. And Jay Gruden's coaching tree is just looking phenomenal between McVay, Shanahan. Now we got Zach Taylor. We got Cincinnati's coach. We've got LaFleur. It's amazing. If he would just stop chasing college chicks and drinking beer, he'd probably still be in the fucking league because he had a hell of a staff. They're all like, LaFleur's got to be top 3 coach. O'Connell, he was on the staff too. Just watch a Commander game, you'll see it. They'll pull up the fucking coaching tree, and all these guys are successful, and the Commanders suck dick. But I'm very impressed with Green Bay. I'm very impressed with the Vikings too. They've overexceeded expectations. I think at one point they were 6.5 wins. Sam Darnold, he got over seeing ghosts, but I just think this is a good opportunity to actually buy back on Green Bay at home. Under a field goal, if it gets to 3, I'm a little more iffy, and at that point, I might look at in play. It is possible. Love does look clunky, but if you can get it under 3 before kick, I would fire on it. And worst case, first possession, they punt. You get a better number. You can do an in-play bet if you have that opportunity.
Yeah, no, I apologize for skipping over this one. That was just an oversight on my part. Should be a good game up there in Cheesehead Land. Don't really have a whole lot to add there, but go Vikings, because I have no reason to root for the Packers after they dismantled the Cowboys last year in the playoffs. So still bitter. But we will dip our toe in the water in some NCAA action. And you have highlighted a game that not many people have looked at, which is the Buffalo Bulls versus the Yukon Huskies. 10 a.m. on the esteemed CBS Sports Network. What's going on with Yukon here? Why are we trusting them?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I had a flashback to college basketball season here because neither one of these have had a decent. Well, they've never really had a decent football program. Some of them have been relevant years ago, but some of them being Buffalo. However, Buffalo is dog shit. They are terrible. Uh, again, I should take better notes. Half of the notes I take are in my brain and just shit I remember to write down. UConn is covering the number by like 12 points. Again, they played Hartsville College or some shit. You know, it's a little skewed, but Buffalo is actually what UConn used to be 2 or 3 years ago of just a JV super high school team. UConn's also starting a 6 game home stretch here. They played, I believe they played Duke last week. Didn't look elite, but Duke, or 2 weeks ago or whatever it was, but they have played more competition and look comparable. You're giving me 4.5. I mean, Buffalo is just. I couldn't name a player or even a number on either one of these teams. It's just an absolute fade on Buffalo. UConn is trending higher. Um, that's about it. Uh, maybe 300 people watch this game. This is a family and friends kind of ball game here. Nobody's going to give a damn, but I do think there is a little value here to uh, root for UConn if you're ever going to root for them.
Yeah, tickets are really hot right now for this game. They're available for the very ridiculous price of $10 a piece. So that's not looking good for the attendance. It is interesting. Buffalo, granted, huge letdown game here from Northern Illinois because they were just riding off the high of beating Notre Dame. They did beat Northern Illinois last week in overtime, but other than that, the only opponent that they have played that is actually has a real football team is Missouri, who blanked them. So uh, definitely not high on the Bulls this year. UConn just smoked Florida Atlantic last week, almost held on against Duke, and uh, you know they look like they could be tough. They could be tough. They're at home. Let's see what's going on here. Like the coach, like the Huskies. So yeah, pretend like you're the damn basketball team. Win something. So
Yeah,
anything else
college.
you'd like to dip yourself in on in college?
Yeah, college is notorious for sandwich spots. Uh, this would be one of those. Northern Illinois obviously came off film. They were high and mighty. Them actions are crazy. I'm not even going to try to bullshit you with UConn statistics because I haven't watched them in 6 fucking years, but I'm willing to bet them. Uh, some of the other collegiates. So Notre Dame, this is, I guess, a revenge game because they did kind of get their shit pushed in a little bit by Louisville last year. The only couple things, I don't love 7. I do think it's going to trend above 7, so 7 is a good number to back this. I do think Notre Dame's defense is worth a damn because Louisville really hasn't played anybody either. They've kind of had faux pas wins. They played Georgia Tech last week. I think they had 2 non-offensive touchdowns. I think they were both defensive, but one of them might have been a special teams punt block. they're just not that little number next to them. It's a 1-5 is nowhere near what they actually are. They are very beneath it. They've had, Georgia Tech's victory looks better because they beat Florida State, but Florida State's a 6-point dog now, which not on my ticket until they prove me something. Maybe, but SMU's not worth a damn either. And now you're giving 6 to Florida State. I'm not playing that, but that's more. Notre Dame does have the ugliest loss of the year against Northern Illinois, and they did kind of struggle against Miami of Ohio, kind of, and then they were able to pull away. Louisville's defensive coordinator does have a history with Riley when he was at Duke, but he also essentially broke his fucking leg that game. So the statistics don't really matter. And Notre Dame does have far superior athletes in theory to Duke. This is a game that I think that's why the last 2 weeks Notre Dame looked like absolute shit. Not that they needed 2 weeks to hide stuff, but I thought they, in theory, could limp through those 2 games for the Louisville matchup. I do think they come out and absolutely stifle Louisville's offense. Now, if Notre Dame can actually get some offense going together, we'll see. But I don't anticipate Louisville doing much on offense. Even if it is ugly, which typically trends to the dog, I think that highly of Notre Dame's defense that 24-7 could look like a fucking boat race just because I don't believe Louisville's actually going to create any offensive momentum.
What do you got for Auburn? You think Auburn's gonna show out?
Yeah, that's one that just caught me off guard because I've watched some Auburn and they look almost equally as dog shit as Oklahoma. That you're catching one at home, kind of threw blinders up. I really don't have any real input on this other than you're telling me I get Oklahoma at -1. Yeah, sign me up. Feels so. Auburn, clearly the people that need to know something with the Auburn. But yeah, Oklahoma just might be. They play good defense ish, as good as Oklahoma in recent years can play. But their offense is just clunky. Not that Auburn is clicking by any means, but that's why it even raises higher questions that what am I missing here? I'm going to dive into it a little more, and it might be a fire play, but it's something that definitely uh, raised bells and alarms, especially after we just watched Oklahoma get, kind of beat down by Tennessee. Uh, it feels like a bet that they're trying to influx Oklahoma money, but the line doesn't reflect that. So, or the line reflects that, but it doesn't make sense to that point. So yeah, I'll probably bet the Tigers, and they'll probably win outright. Um, some of the other leans.
Yeah, let's go to the 2 big ranked matchups. We had Georgia, Bama here, and Illinois, Penn State, both in prime time this Saturday. That'll be a fun fucking 5:30 hour to start with.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna watch the Georgia game and learn. Georgia's 48-0 against anybody that's not Bama. which is impressive. However, it is a revenge game from them not being able to get in the tournament last week. It is 2, but it's, I think, the first time in fucking forever Bama's a home dog. And Georgia kind of got pushed around by a Kentucky team last week that really, because I've bet Kentucky, and they don't have a vertical passing game, and they are not the Kentucky of years ago. I know it's a rivalry game, or at least it's a Kentucky rivalry game. You know, Georgia, it's like we've been beating your ass for fucking ever. You're not a rival, but they were able to have a little bit of success running the ball without a vertical passing game. I know it's potential a look ahead spot, even though they had to bye last week. I'm more curious to learn what from Georgia because Alabama on the same side, they fucked around with South Florida. South Florida just got beat the piss out of by Miami. I was very curious to see if South Florida was better, but it appears it doesn't really count as a successful victory. I think they played Western Kentucky too. Not a great offensive output team. I and then they played Wisconsin, but Wisconsin is they're not Billima, which we'll talk about him next. Wisconsin, Wisconsin's just a fucking wreck. I don't even consider that a. It's not a bad victory. Just it's not anything that would move the needle, especially moving into Georgia here because they're apples and oranges differently. I if I had to, I would lean Georgia just because they are both of these teams are very skilled. Georgia, I guess, has continuity. Um, it might be one of the games I actually watch just to enjoy and see if I was right or not. And then the other one, I might do the same damn thing. But Illinois, I'm incredibly high on Illinois. And I think it got up to 19 at one point. It's now down to 18. They play some defense there, and they actually have a quarterback that used to, I believe, be a Penn State alum until they kicked his ass to the curb. He's actually completing passes now. They're running an offense. They had a couple good victories. They beat Nebraska that at kickoff last week. Everybody was on the hype of Nebraska, but I think he got as high as didn't get to 10, but I think he got as high as 9 and kind of came back. But they've got 2 safeties back there. They've had a good defensive backfield the last couple years. They've got a couple. One of the kids is on the Seahawks, uh, doing well, and there's a couple other people they drafted. They're continuing to cycle through with the defensive backfield. They're playing good defense. Uh, the Kansas victory doesn't look near as good because Kansas is kind of shit in the bed, and they're not. Not that anybody thought Kansas was a juggernaut, but Kansas is kind of prone, so there might be a little inflation. But Penn State on the other side, they're not protecting the quarterback. They had 3 offensive linemen drafted this year, so they're kind of still working through that. The defense doesn't seem to be as lights out as last year. 18's a fringe. Obviously, it is technically a 3-score deficit that I do think would be difficult to come by. But I don't know how much I trust Illinois'. I don't know how much I trust Penn State's defense or Illinois' offense. I trust Illinois' defense. So it might be another. Let me learn, add data points. I might mess around and catch a number I feel uh, confident in, but it'll be an interesting game to watch. Would not shock me if they won outright. Illinois, that is. And then lastly, Cincinnati. they are not aging very well. They had a terrible loss to Pittsburgh or West Virginia. I forget. But they were dominating the game, shit the bed. I think it was West Virginia. West Virginia's fucking plummeted. And then there was another thing. So basically what I'm getting to is the line at 3.5 against Texas Tech is crazy. Texas Tech very well could have lost to Abilene State. They did cover a number against ASU, not the number we got, but they covered a number against ASU. I don't think Texas Tech is that good. They're not over there with Patrick Mahomes. They're not slinging it. They're not putting up 50 points. Their defense is what they hang their hat on a little bit, but it's a little shaky. Both of these teams are very shaky. 3.5 in college is not what it is in the NFL. They're still college kids, and that's why we say fuck them college kids. But honestly, this game should be a pick 'em or Cincinnati favored. But the recent bias and outcomes allows you to get a value on Cincinnati. Whether or not they execute it is why college can be so finicky betting.
Yep. No, it'll be a good little Saturday. A little bit of Auburn, a little bit of Georgia, a little bit of Illinois, maybe a little bit of Cincinnati. I don't know if we'll have time. But I will certainly be watching the dogs and hoping that Alabama's not running wild on them. But Kentucky did put a little bit of fear in my heart. I was thinking that the only thing that could stop Georgia in this game was that bus getting a speeding ticket on the way down to Birmingham, which they're known to do in Georgia lately. But Illinois, that I'm seeing on TMZ ESPN bet right now at 19.5. And you tell me that I'm getting 19.5 in a game where you think that they could fucking win outright, and that sounds like a good idea to me. And one thing I know that will come around once a year, every year, at least, is James Franklin fucking up another game against a ranked team. So, no better time than now. And hopefully, we'll all win some money there. Good week for the show last week. 7-4 overall on the picks. And really did a nice job. We had a couple late additions as well that were victories. So, by and large, if you were hanging out with us last weekend, you were making money. So, that's always good to see. And we will hope that that streak continues. So, everybody have a lovely weekend. We will reconvene at another date. Look out for the Substack for any other additional picks that we're ready to throw out there. And subscribe, like, comment, and help us juice the algorithm. Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate it.